Just make sure it's
Is there
nice.
any?
No.
I worked this morning.
I like the embroidery. You always have nice embroidery on your shirts. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll call this recommending committee meeting of February 20th to order. Are we in compliance with the open meeting law? Yes, we are. This meeting has been posted in various locations throughout the city. We'll move to item number 3. Bill number 2007-5 allows the use of, quote, accessory massage, unquote, as an accessory use in certain zoning districts, sponsored by Councilman Larry Weekly. Do we have staff that would like to comment on this? No, excuse me, I said Larry Brown. I was thinking of Weekly. Because we were, yeah. Also, I'm worried that we're not having a party for him tomorrow. It's on my mind. Okay. No rift there, by the way.
Marco Wheeler, Planning and Development. As is shown in the ordinance on page 2, this is an ordinance to allow massage therapy when it's accessory to a principally permitted use such as medical office, physical rehab center, health club, country club, hotel of more than 100 rooms. It can't occupy more than 150 square feet, and there's no exterior signage. The purpose is to allow these types of uses without a public hearing, as it is not the primary use on site. All of the licensing requirements are still in place, so that any individual doing the massage therapy, even in these facilities, will still have to go through the entire background check and the business licensing, but that because it is not the principal use on site, it will not be required to have a public hearing. Conclude staff report if there's any questions.
Could I convey to you a couple of questions I received at one of
Certainly.
my neighborhood meetings? Robin, you can watch and make sure that I express this correctly. How do we know something bad's not going to sneak in here?
Is that how it was asked?
Yeah, that's exactly quote.
And if I may, the primary reason would be through the background check that is done on the individual. And that is, they have to come back through that process. It is true that unless there was a complaint, that otherwise it would not be something that you would be aware of. But because land use decisions are those based upon what is noticeable from the public right-of-way, what is the difference here is that when you are in a shopping center or are driving down the street, what you are looking at is a doctor's office or a fitness club or a beauty shop. You are not looking at a massage parlor. And again, there is no outside signage allowed advertising the massage use. So from a land use point of view, it does not have a visible impact on the neighborhood.
So, and I understand that. But what I would like to ask is a question for myself. And one of my very first votes was a doctor who gave massages. And at that time, they had to classify him as a massage parlor. What would you classify him as now?
That would fall under this new ordinance, where the primary use is a doctor's office, but that as an accessory use, and again, not exceeding 150 square feet of the establishment, would be able to include therapeutic massage.
We call him a doctor's office
Yes.
with accessory massage. That's what I wanted to know. We call him, okay.
That's correct.
And what if you're a spa? You're a spa with accessory massage.
Yes. So
Okay.
your business license, you would have a business license
Right.
for the spa, and then you would secondarily have that accessory license, which is a privileged license, which all the background checks on whomever will be doing the massage within the facility.
Thank you very much. Did we have anybody from the audience that wanted to make a comment on this or ask any questions? Okay. Councilman Ross.
Thank you, Councilwoman. So, Director, in our best interest to protect this community from would-be not so nice people in this industry, they go through the complete background check that the Metropolitan Police Department puts through everybody. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So we at that time have the option, or will receive recommendation at that time, or is it a slam dunk deal that if someone's got, say, a
Those
criminal
privileged
history-
licenses still come before you through the finance department.
It's just that it wouldn't be called a massage parlor. It would be called a doctor's
I
office.
understand that, but to protect the community, protect the public,
Yeah, the
From these
investigation.
unscrupulous folks that we deal with from time to time, the investigation will show that, and I just want to make
Right,
that clear.
right.
That's correct.
You were making an emphasis.
Thank
there.
you.
Any further questions or comments? Mr. Ross, would you like to make a,
I would,
Motion?
Councilman, I would move to refer to council with a due pass on agenda item 3.
all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to agenda item number 4, bill number 2007-6, levies assessment for special improvement district number 1506, Fremont Street pedestrian improvements, Las Vegas Boulevard to 8th Street, sponsored by, it's a step requirement.
Yeah, thank you. Mike Thompson, Department of Public Works. This is the assessment ordinance for the downtown pedestrian improvements along Fremont Street from Las Vegas Boulevard to 8th. This will allow us to levy the assessments on the individual properties within the district and the items in order, and I can answer any questions you might have.
Do we have any questions from the councilman?
Actually, I understand that a lot of the businesses are kind of looking forward to this improvements down there. So.
We really have had a real positive, and even the construction, it's certainly tore up down there, but they've all, they can't wait to see it get finished.
I think that this area of the city has caught on to the vision of this county, mayor and council in regards to beautifying and upgrading. So that's just a statement, Councilwoman. I don't have a question.
I think that was a very good statement. And we did have a few that complained, but just 2 or 3, almost all of them were greatly in favor.
That's correct, yeah.
And that shows a strong feeling, as you said. Any comments from the audience? You want a motion?
And Councilman, on agenda item 4, I would make a motion to refer to council with a due pass.
All in favor? Aye. We will now move to agenda item number 5, which is Bill 2007-7. It amends solid waste and recycling regulations by updating service charges, adding charges for overflow collections, eliminating charges for discontinuing service, deregulating charges for competitive service areas, increasing frequency of service options, authorizing pilot programs for recycling, adding customer service standards, revising late payment charges, adding minimum container requirements, and facilitating recycling by materials recovery facilities, proposed by Mark R. Vinson, Director of Finance and Business Services.
I will do my best to be Mark Vincent. Chris Ware, Franchise Officer. I'll just go over a few of the highlights. You've covered most of the things in the title to the ordinance there as a summary. But just as a little background, the code was last updated with regard to solid waste back in late 2004. And prior to that, our code, there were some significant differences between our code, the county code, Henderson code, et cetera. So we updated a lot of things, but even after we updated our code, things continued to evolve and change. There were some changes made by Henderson and Clark County. We've been working closely with Henderson and Clark County to try to get our codes uniform, to try to get a few things in line with some changes in state law, and also to get in line with some court settlements in the county about recycling and some material recovery facilities. So with that background, it's a little ironic, I guess I can tell you, that even though the city, i.e. us, did most of the work drafting all these changes, Henderson and Clark County have in essence already adopted these changes, and if we proceed and adopt them for the first time, at least that I know of, we'll actually have pretty uniform codes throughout those 3 cities. I can't speak for North Las Vegas. Having said that, what the code changes will do in a nutshell is as follows. First of all, we're going to add frequency of service options. Under the present code, generally speaking, businesses have to choose either twice a week, 6 times a week, or 7 times a week. Doesn't always work. For example, I've had complaints in the past from Walgreens that all I need is once a week. They don't know why they have to pay for twice a week. We're actually adding choice for whatever you want, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 times a week service. So that is potentially a good thing for people, giving them more choices. With regard to rates, the basic rates themselves are not changing. The numbers will look different in this ordinance than the old ordinance. That's because we're updating all the CPI adjustments that happen every July 1st. but essentially there aren't basic rate changes. Now, there are a couple things about rates. One is, and you may have read some press last year about overflow charges. We're adding in overflow charges. These are the dumpsters that people have that stuff is just all over the place. It's outside, it's not in it, it's a big mess. Again, consistent with what Henderson and the county have already done.
Can I just ask a question
Sure.
there? How about the many concerns we've had that the rubbish isn't picked up when it should be picked up, and that's why it's overflowing?
That's part of what's written
How are
in
we
this
going,
code.
but how are we going to monitor that? I mean, if it's overflowing, Republic could say it's the fault of the person, and the person says it's the fault of Republic. How do you monitor whose problem it is so they can correct it?
Right. There isn't a perfect solution, but written right into the code, first of all, is they are not authorized to charge they are not authorized to charge if an overflow is caused by a missed pickup. So certainly, hopefully the education goes out, you need to call Republic if you've got a missed pickup, because they can't charge you if they missed the pickup. Secondly, changes have been made procedurally as to how they're going to do these. For example, it used to be when the program started, and I'm not faulting anybody, but when the program started at Republic, they would actually just have drivers take photos, but the drivers also had an economic incentive to get overflow charges. Now you have to have a Republic supervisor called and come out and document that the overflow is there. So there's those procedural guidelines to help out. There's still a provision there that city staff, if we deem appropriate, we can require Republic to waive the charges if people present us with reasonable basis upon which to waive it. Republic themselves can waive it, but the city also can waive charges if we think it's being abused or there's a problem there. So there's several procedural safeguards in there. Having said that, I don't expect a perfect world, but I haven't gotten any.
The key factor is that then the person who's owns the building needs to immediately call when they're missed on a pickup day.
Right. I mean, they should just
If
call
they
when they
can.
get this pickup. And in fact, when I get down later in my summary, you'll find there's even another provision that kind of correlates to that. There's an incentive for them to do that. So we're going to conform to Henderson and the county. We're going to add the overflow charge. It's actually going to be less than originally proposed last year. It'll be $30, just a flat sum. Another thing about rates is we're going to formally, officially, although it's been in practice for some time now, deregulate rates for competitive service areas. This in particular is mainly construction and demolition waste. This is an area where Republic has never had an exclusive right to haul. There's always been competition in this area. So even though we set rates by code, it doesn't seem necessary to set rates for a competitive service area. There's other smaller areas like septic tanks, grease traps, and yard waste where, again, Republic doesn't exclusively haul those things away, so there is competition for those rates. And then the last thing we're going to do is clean up a late fee provision, which was changed back in 2004. Presently, residential customers, because of the way it's calculated, get a late fee charge of 71 cents a quarter if they're late. We're bumping that up to $3 per quarter if they're late, and that's again consistent with Henderson and the county. The next topic would be minimum container requirements, and you may recall this has been an ongoing problem with neighborhood services. I thought Pam Hines was going to be here today, but I don't see her. What the city is going to do is several things here. First of all, we've tried to define the universe, and for single-family residents and duplexes, we're going to treat both those the same. They're going to be treated as single-family residences. They aren't going to have specific requirements as to what they need. If you have more than a duplex, any multiple dwelling unit of 3+ units, or if you're a business or a commercial entity, we're going to at least define some specific minimums, which hopefully will help code enforcement out. Those minimums will be based, for example, with multiple dwelling units, you'll have to have at least some size of the cubic yard containers. Those are the metal containers. So it depends on the size, the number of units. All businesses from now on will at least have to have at least the 96-gallon plastic mobile containers with wheels on them, mobile toters as they're called. So there will be at least some minimums for everybody specified. Again, it won't be a panacea and solve all problems, but we think that will help code enforcement out somewhat. With regard to customer service standards, and this gets back to your point, Councilwoman, again, several things. One is we've had complaints from businesses about several things. So the first thing we're going to do, because there were complaints about Republic not timely fixing and replacing containers, they get broken wheels, whatever the reasons. We're putting into the code now that Republic is required to fix or replace any damaged containers for businesses within 7 days. And if pickups are missed because containers aren't fixed, they're broken, and Republic has to issue credits for those missed pickups. If you aren't going to provide a container and get it done, you shouldn't be charging for it. Similarly, Republic is required to collect a missed commercial pickup within 24 hours of notice that it was missed. And that gets back to your point, a business should call in. And again, if it's not picked up, if the missed pickup isn't corrected within 24 hours, Republic needs to automatically issue a credit for that missed pickup. So that plays into the responsibilities on both parts of the aisle for the owner to notify Republic. And finally, there's some phone standards that are added. Republic's phone services, at least based on what I can tell, improved significantly the last year. I'm no longer getting the number of calls I used to get, but we're actually writing into the code now some phone standards that are based kind of on the Cox Communications franchise agreement. Another area we're adding some changes is recycling in the material recovery facilities. This hasn't been as hot an issue in our city as in the county, but for years and years there's been litigation with the state, with the Department of Environmental Protection in the county regarding material recovery facilities. That was settled. We're putting some changes in consistent with that settlement that will encourage and facilitate recycling of construction and demolition waste by the material recovery facilities. We're also putting in the code authorization for the city manager and Republic and residents who voluntarily want to do it to enter into pilot programs for residential recycling. So you might see that coming out in the future, but it's all voluntary. Everybody has to agree. It's not going to be forced on anybody. And then finally, just one little oddball item. This has never been in the code before, but we're adding a provision specifically saying that with city approval, and this has to be with city approval, if Republic believes an area cannot be picked up safely, and mainly because it's an area that's congested and they would have to back up a truck a long way, and that leads to problems with possibly running over kids, for example, instead of being able to require Republic to pick up your trash right in front of your property, there may be an alternative location approved by the city. Now again, that's within our control, that's not up to Republic, but we have had at least one or two occasions in the past where frankly I went out with Mr. Coyle was here, looked at it, and I had to agree with him, this is not a safe condition. I don't know why you're backing up a truck 150 feet in an area you really can't see in. So that's a summary of the changes. I'd like to thank Bob Coyle, who is here, if he wants to say anything, for his help and Republic's help in drafting these. I don't see any property managers here, but to the extent there was some controversy last year and the property managers raised some concerns, we've worked extensively with them. They educated us on some things. I think they're now quite satisfied with the code changes. They spoke in favor of them at the county. I believe they've written Dr. Selby a letter saying they approved of them. And so I think everybody is a happy camper now. And that's my summary. And again, if Mr. Coyle, if you have questions for me on Mr. Coyle, he's here to help answer those.
Seems like you did a lot of very good work. It's extensive and it covers all those areas where we had questions. It's very, very good. It's much appreciated. And could we have a copy of that little summary sheet you were reading from? I like one because I have people who call and that gives us a succinct means of reply.
Sure. Would it be possible to email that to you, or do you want somebody
You can
physically
email
make
it
a
to
copy?
Kim, my secretary,
Okay.
executive assistant.
You know that'll end up on eBay.
It's not copyrighted, so I guess anybody can use it.
Bob Coyle, Republic Services. I'd just like to compliment all the hard work and effort that Chris has put into this. This is really a comprehensive update, and he really did all the work for Clark County and the city of Henderson, because they really copied all of his words, and he did an extensive amount of research. And I think you now have a state-of-the-art solid waste ordinance.
Chris, you're going to be all over the place, all your work products. I'm
Well,
very proud you're with the city.
there's something to be said for anonymity, but thank you for the kind words.
Councilman, if I may. Mr. Quells, are nice kind words for Chris and his efforts, but I know that he wasn't alone in this. I have recognized for quite some time your commitment, the public services commitment to doing what's right in this city. And being mindful as it is that you have a business to run and operate, you're still a community partner with this city. And I recognize that in Chris's efforts, that you guys have joined together to make this a better place to live and to throw your trash away. I'm going to speak from personal experience as well. Chris, you're talking about his trucks backing up. Of course, you know all of his drivers need to have CDL driver's licenses, which is a commercial driver's license. And I've witnessed firsthand the teamwork. Now, being in construction and being a big OSHA fan and being working safe, I've recognized that as that driver's backing up, the second guy on that truck's making sure that the coast is clear. And I don't know if you recognize that or not. Occasionally, Councilwoman, my trash gets missed too. And Republic Service has been very quick to respond, and it's a challenge to Mr. Coyle as who runs this company, because he can only manage effectively as he can. I mean, people are people, and sometimes if you don't want to pick up the trash, you're not going to pick up the trash. You're going to keep on going. And we've had chats about this in regards to that challenge. But interesting to see the damaged container sentences in here requiring wheels to be replaced. I too experienced a broken wheel on my dumpster not too long ago. I never called, and that thing was repaired within a week. So I'm very appreciative of that. So I know firsthand what you're trying to do out there, Mr. Coyle. I also want to volunteer for one of your residential recycling pilot programs.
Yay.
Let me be an example for the community to see if we can do things a little better and a little cleaner. So keep that in mind, and I appreciate all your efforts.
Can you do that individually if everybody who lives around you doesn't?
I think so. It's a pilot program. How is that going to work? Or you?
Actually, I defer to one of the county's recycling advisory committee members to update you.
Robin,
Actually, I believe what we're wanting is to have actual areas because of the pickup and delivery, so that we can see how that would work in an area. So convince one of your neighbors.
I only have 4 neighbors. I think I can do it.
I think we need more than that.
I live in a small neighborhood.
But we can look at it, certainly.
Well, I think it's important that as we represent portions of the city, Councilwoman, that we take that extra step forward to set an example and do things. So did you get your community convinced?
I had them convinced the first meeting I went to, and they were all set, and then they had another meeting, and a whole lot of people came, and they didn't like the idea. I just must take, but of course I have 132 in there, so I didn't successfully close the deal. I'm sorry, but I thought it would be advantageous to see if we could recycle better, and I'll bring it back again, and we'll see. The major concern they had was there were a lot of lawns in the area, and they felt that the grass might cause a smell, if it was sitting there for a whole week, and so that was it.
Well,
But there are other things, maybe.
well, with that, Councilman, you brought up something important also. I mean, can residential users adjust their pickup schedules as well? I'm on the twice a week schedule, but I've got one of the big dumpsters out front. Occasionally, I don't need twice a week. I only need once a week. In my effort to help keep fuel costs down, keep the city clean, keep my garbage taken out, my horse manure, I mean, that's kind of important to me, but is that flexible for residences as well, or just businesses?
Council member, we've never had that in our ordinance, and at least in these changes, that's not proposed. I mean, we have a rate structure, I guess, in theory, that's based on an administratively simple method of doing things, which is everybody gets the same level of service and pays, in essence, the same amount on residential. Now, again, businesses have all sorts of choices, but in answer to your question, we haven't done that. I haven't had any feedback. This is the first feedback I've had that would indicate there might be some desire for that.
Well, in most of the city, the problem would be, I know where I live, that even if I didn't, you'd have to be picking up before and after me, so you almost don't save anything. But I think that it's wonderful you work together, and I think that it's great that we've moved to a position that we may be on the cutting edge of trying to pull all of this together. I know there'll be more to be done, and as we go along, we'll just see how far we can go and getting better all the time. Were there any comments from the audience? No citizen participation, then Mr. Councilman?
Councilman, I would, on agenda item 5, I would move to refer to council with a due pass.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. We now come to the citizens participation point. Is there anybody here who would like to make a comment to this recommending committee, or to anybody sitting around the recommending committee? Yeah. Hearing none, I now say the meeting's adjourned.